So yeah, I want to welcome you to the Finding Flow through Community webinar here on March 25. We're all from across the United States, it looks like. And we're going to be kind of going in and out of, I'll kind of be sharing my screen with kind of the things that we're going to be talking about. But just to give you some kind of background for those that haven't been really introduced to this, what's this Finding Flow concept? So really finding flow comes from the concept that over the years, I'm actually writing a book that I'll be publishing next year on the topic through Paulus Press. But it really is, if you look at all the spiritual greats, Buddha, Jesus, I mean, certainly, Christian leaders, from any faith tradition, my sense is that they had four things that they integrated, four lifestyle practices that they integrated into their lives. And the first would be, they spent time in solitude. They literally, every day, they would either through meditation, contemplation, walking. I mean, one of the stories about Jesus was, where's Jesus? Oh, he's up, on the mountain talking to his dad, basically. So there's an invitation to really, for each one of us, find that daily contemplative practice. So that's the one sense that a part of the Finding Flow. The other is spiritual reading, to be able to do, I'll just share you the screen here real quick, to really be able to do spiritual reading on a daily basis, where you're really looking at the different books and concepts that other people have. Can you see you probably can't see that yet, can you? Can you see well, I won't share my screen. Sorry about that. So anyway, the concept is that, as we develop these four lifestyle practices, the spiritual reading, and then tonight we'll talk about community, that basically, who are the people that God's put in our lives that help us grow, and maybe who shouldn't be in our lives, we'll talk about, that we need to kind of move them outside of our group. And then also, who's missing in our lives that we'd like in our lives. And that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And then next month, we'll talk about our contemplative action. What are our gifts and talents, and how do we use those? So the idea being that as we integrate those four lifestyle practices in our lives, we find that inner peace, balance, and wholeness, basically. So let's just take a moment as we begin. And if everybody wants to just take a quick second to introduce your name and where you're from. How's that sound? So Kim, you want to start first?
Oh, sure. My name's Kim Gill, and I live in Byron Center, Michigan.
Good.
Yep. You need to know more? I'm an artist. I'm married. My husband and I live here. We have one son, and he's in California, and just adopted a dog with his sweetheart. The two of them adopted a dog. I guess that saved them from getting. Oh, there's your.
There's that.
There it is.
Yeah.
So we're at the hello here. There you go. Yeah, cool. So your husband's in California right now, did you say?
No. My husband's working from home right now, but which is a new experience too.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, our son lives in California.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all, I guess.
Super. Sounds good. Celeste, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Celeste. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
Just north of Montana.
Okay.
And a third of the people here are expected to get the coronavirus. Unfortunately, I'm in one of those groups that shouldn't get it.
Oh, boy.
Trying to self-isolate, but my 86-year-old father has a lot of trouble self-isolating. So he's here quite often.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm a professor. I teach leadership classes. I've written a bunch of books, still writing. And I'm trying to create a distance class for some of my students in Bucharest. I was supposed to be over there teaching a class in management skills, so
wow,
do a digital class.
What institution do you teach through? Where are you at?
I'm at the University of Quebec in Montreal.
Okay. Wow. Cool. Yeah. Well, welcome from
Thank
across
you.
the other side of the border there. Good for you.
Thanks.
So Tom, you want to go?
Sure. I'm Tom Demon. I currently live in Dexter, Michigan. I'm from Grand Rapids. I work part-time and seasonally at U of M, but that ended a week early recently. I skied in Whitefish, Montana about 2.5 weeks ago, came home.
Mm.
Hanging with our 2 kids, their spouses, and our 3 grandchildren, all locally, but that's kind of coming to an end pretty soon. My son-in-law works in a hospital, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. So,
Sure.
but we're all healthy to date and trying to live with patience and faith and good character and integrity.
Yeah. You. Yeah. Well, welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jack, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Jack Rogers. I'm from LaGrange Park, Illinois. At the moment, I work in customer support at a web hosting company right in Downers Grove. On the side, I'm a freelance graphic designer and web designer, and I do a lot of drawing.
Nice.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you obviously working remotely, are you now? Pretty much?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, yeah. And Mary Claire?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm Mary Kay Potter. I am from Grand Rapids. I am a nurse. I have a husband and three sons, 2 grandsons, 3 granddogs. I usually do flu and wellness, and I'm going to start working at a factory that does pharmaceuticals that needs their employees screened to make sure that they're healthy. So I'll be taking temperatures every day for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for protecting us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's they're giving us masks and gloves, and unless someone coughs, you hope that people remember. You
Yeah.
cough into your sleeve, you sneeze into your sleeve or in a tissue, you drop it, and wash your hands. The biggest thing is wash your hands and keep your hands from your face.
Exactly.
You you gotta have, obviously we have the coronavirus and a way to spread it, but it's gotta have a susceptible host
Sure.
in order to create the disease. So if you stay healthy, do your best at sleep and exercise and the good hygiene, and that's your best bet against anything.
Sure. Yeah. Well, welcome. Mary
Yeah,
Claire.
there's the health message for the day.
Public service announcement. Exactly.
Right,
we,
right.
we need the reminder for sure. Exactly. Mary Claire, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Mary Claire. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Brian's my dad, but I'm currently living in San Jose, California, with my husband right now. And I'm a registered dietitian working in skilled nursing facilities right now.
We're all across the globe here, which is kind of fun. So yeah, good deal. Well, I thought to get us started that we would just do kind of a Lexio, and I thought we would use these words. Lexio Divina is where we really take a step back. Divine reading is kind of the normal term for it, and we really let a simple word or phrase, could be scripture, could be just something inspirational, could be a song, and we're kind of use the words from a song here today, where we really read it 1 or 2 or 3 times, and as we are listening, we just kind of let the words flow over us. So I thought what we would do is, in a second here, I'll bring the little chime here, and then if we want to say the words in yellow, can everybody see those there?
Mhm.
Yeah, just say them together slowly, and then we'll pause, and then I'll start us up again, and we'll say it a second time, and just take a pause, and then the third time we'll pause, or say it a third time and pause, And then I'll just invite you, is there any word, phrase, image, anything that just spoke to you, that just kind of said, yeah, or any insight or wisdom as we said those words together? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So if you want to just take a moment and just maybe, plant your feet on the ground, let go of the day, just maybe focus on your breath, maybe take a couple of deep breaths. You want to close your eyes, feel free to close them. And in a second, I'll ring the chime, and then we can kind of open your eyes. We can say the words together. Just be aware of God's presence here and now. We
We
are one body,
are one body,
one
one body
Right.
in Christ,
and we
and
do
we
not
do not
Do not
stand
stand alone.
alone.
We are
We are
We are
one body,
one
body in
in
Christ,
Christ.
and
we
We
do
do
not
not
stand
stand
alone.
alone.
Somebody's got their TV going. I hate to interrupt us, but if somebody who's got a TV in the background or radio could mute that, that'd be helpful.
That might be me. I moved to another room and thought that was enough.
That just means that there's more joining us here in the universe. So I'll ring it one more time. We can say it one more time. Thanks, Mary Kay.
Yep, sorry.
No problem. We
Are
are
one
body,
body
one
one
body,
body
in
in
Christ.
Christ.
and we
And we
do
do
not
not
not stand alone.
And just, are there any words, phrases, images? Normally we'd sit and do this for 10 or 15 minutes, so it'd be a little bit more time to, but anything that rose up with you? Yeah, I had to, what rose up with me is the distraction, that's all part of it all. Like we have literally in our lives had this amazing distraction called the coronavirus. And, but we're adapting to it basically. And, the background of the TV noise or whatever Mary Kay had, it's no big deal. It's, we maneuver around it, and it's part of being human. And there's to me that, even the interruptions or the distractions in our life can be opportunities to integrate that. And remember that we are still one. It's part of the human experience.
The interesting thing, Brian, is that during what I could hear from her television, what stood out to me was that jingle, "We Are Family,"
Yeah.
from the song.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that was appropriate.
Exactly, yeah.
That's funny because I didn't even hear my TV. I was concentrating on that, and I love the song. I was tapping my feet to it, and it's the one body because we're all one. We are in this life together, trying to get through this life together.
Exactly, yeah. Anybody else have some words, images, thoughts? Yeah, it was funny. It was "We Are Family" in the background.
Yeah.
I think it was God's voice coming in.
Yeah.
A gentle nudge.
One thought I had, Brian, and everyone, was that despite everything going on, all of the distraction of coronavirus, it was just so wonderful to actually just have those moments, just to close my eyes, slow down, and just, say those words, focus on it, And it actually surprised me how I was able to kind of focus on that. Like even with everything else going on, if we just slow down, we just slow down and refocus our attention, like it still is possible to bring God into our lives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing. You create that space, even if it's a few short minutes, and God just fills it in amazing ways. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me too, I noticed that the We Are family as well. And I kind of was like, oh, singing along to that. And then also when you shared your screen, I think you had the picture of everybody holding hands, and I believe it said we are one.
Yeah.
So for me that, we are one, we don't stand alone, we are family. Like all of those kind of rose up in me that, it's like what your workshop is tonight. We're community, we're all in this together,
Yeah. Yeah, there's that gentle balance of we need the solitude, the daily quiet time, to be alone and listen one-on-one in our relationship with God. And we also need the community that we're experiencing tonight, and that we'll talk about in our own inner circles and stuff. So yeah, it's that both and. We need both. Yeah. Anything
That's
else?
one hope I have is that this is a terrible thing, but God can use evil for good. And one good thing might be that we will be more unified as a world, not just as a nation, and look for the common good in humanity that we all have in us.
I have never noticed or seen so many people walking these days. I went for a walk with a buddy of mine, and everybody's out with their dogs, and they're all waving. We keep our 6 feet away from each other. But it's like, wow, it's like everyone all of a sudden retired. They got forced to retire. And there's this new time that, to create a whole new lifestyle of walking and slowing down a little bit. So yeah, I wonder if God is up to something even in the midst of this. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a strange question for all of you, but do you find that even though you're home now, but the days go by really fast? I'm finding that the days are just flying by, and I don't know why. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that.
I agree with you.
I asked a couple of my friends, and they said too, yeah, all of a sudden you're looking, it's 4 o'clock already, and
Yeah.
I feel like it varies, because like sometimes the weekends feel like a week, and then the work week comes and it feels like the same length. I just have like no sense of time anymore.
maybe that's it. Yeah.
Welcome to retirement. I'm semi-retired, and it is a challenge though when you have a day that it's totally up to you to figure out what to do. And I have a long list, and sometimes I too get to the end of the day and go, gee, what did I accomplish? And usually there are things, but the realization is that you got to plan it out, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
Those of you who are working yet, you still have some pressures there of time. But I took a walk in the woods. U of M has a really nice place, and it was sunny. I sat down on a rock and called 4 friends, and just enjoyed the day. And there were a lot of people out there running, jogging. Yeah, it's quite beautiful.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, tonight we're going to focus on, and I think, again, just the beauty of just what we experienced was community. Each one of us, we all went through the same experience. We had common things we experienced, insights, there's fun things that happened with the song that came in. But that's how we grow as community. We all have God works through each one of us in a different way many times. And tonight's just that opportunity to step back and look at, okay, well, who is in my community, my inner circle, and how, how can are there pieces missing from that? So I don't know if you had a chance. I kind of did that homework assignment that I sent out. I did that little circle thing. I don't know if anybody had a chance to do that. If you didn't, that's okay. But if you do, grab that. But you might want to just even, I don't know if you've got a sheet of paper near you, if you didn't have a chance to do it. As we go through these 5 questions, you might want to just take a sheet of paper And because we'll go through each one by one kind of talk about it. So draw a big circle if you haven't already, and just put the word community with that. And really, we're gonna talk through 5 questions one by one. Who is in your current, what I call your inner circle? You know, the Faulkners talk about the circle of trust. But really, who are the people in your lives right now, in this day and age, that God has placed in your eyes that you would say, yeah, these are the people I lean into. These are the people that help me grow. Here's the people that, particularly in this crisis time we're in, here's the people in my inner circle. The second question, and again, we'll go through these one by one. Who are the wisdom teachers? Who are the wise men and women that went before us? They could be, you know, grandparents, parents. They could be saints. They could be, you know, these spiritual giants like Martin Luther King Jr. or Henry Nouwen is one for me. Just who are the 1 or 2 people that you would say, you know, right now I'm really learning from that. I aspire to integrate, you know, their components into their lives, would be the second question. The third we'll look at is, okay, well, who are the toxic people in my life? You know, we love people and it's okay, but, you know, part of self-care and part of being the light of Christ in the world is to recognize, you know, sometimes they're just some people we can love them, but God invites us to love them at a distance because they're really, you know, not allowing us to be the light, and even if we're trying to be, you know, loving to them, they just don't want to grow. And so maybe for right now, I have to kind of pull them out of my circle. The fourth question we'll look at is, where's God? Where would you put God on your circle? You know, as you draw this circle, I mean, literally looking at, well, where is God in my circle? How would I place God, you know, someplace or maybe more than one place on the circle? And the last question we'll talk about is, who or what's missing? Is there anything missing in your circle? Like you kind of go, boy, it would sure be nice to have a spiritual friend, or to have a faith tradition, or, you know, whatever it is. So, you know, so we'll just kind of walk through each one of those. I'll share my screen if I can remember how I did that before.
Can I just say something
go
for a
ahead.
minute here?
Sure.
My internet connection isn't stable, so for about 5 minutes there, I wasn't really connected, and so it may be that it becomes disconnected again.
Okay. Yeah.
So
No
that,
problem.
you know.
Okay. Sounds good. And I went back and doggone it, I got just the, did I do it again? So let's start with that first question. And if we want to just go one by one, who are the current people in your life? If you took your circle of trust, who would be in that inner circle? Who are the, you know, the maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoever it is, that you would say, yeah, these are the people that really are part of my life? Anybody want to go first? And feel free to, you know, if you've done the thing, you know, show it and talk about it. If you're just doing it now, yeah, feel free to write it in and then share it with us too. So.
I'll go ahead and start. For me, I did it, and in my inner circle, I have both my parents, my mom and my dad. I also have my older brother, and then also my husband. I put God in my inner circle. I put him in both places, you know, the inner circle in the second place as well. And then in my inner circle, I also put the spiritual direction for me as well.
Neat. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else want to share? Who's in your inner circle? Who has God placed in your life that you can say, wow, these people are gifts to me. These are people that help me grow, and that I also help grow too. There's a give and a take.
I'll jump in. I haven't completed the assignment, but I'll give it a stab. Well, I would definitely put God, and also my mother, God bless her, at 93 years old, and my husband and children. We have 2 grown children, and yeah. Is it okay to put? Well, these aren't people, but just as far as other, creatures who are important, we have three dogs. I don't think it's wrong to put the pets there because, I mean, for a lot of us, they're just so integral to our lives.
Yeah.
And when the kids move out, they're like our kids anyway. So,
sure. Yeah.
And yeah, that would be the innermost circle for me.
Yeah. I like that. I forgot to put my dog Riley in my inner circle. So
oh, Brian.
He's not in the room, so hopefully he'll forgive me. So yeah, I know. I think that's great that our pets are in there because they are from God. They are gifts.
Right.
Sure. They love us unconditionally. Yeah. That's great.
Oh,
there he is. What's your dog's name, Celeste?
She's Dolly. She belongs to the parish priest, and I just take care of her every once in a while.
Oh, who was that?
Beautiful.
Oh, wow, that's great. Well, Celeste, who's in your inner circle? We know Dolly's in that inner circle, right?
Well, I have God, my father, brothers and sisters, my son, and some friends of mine.
Yeah. It's interesting. As you were saying that, Celeste, I was thinking it would be interesting to see, if we're in other people's inner circle, I mean, to just reflect on that, that it'd be interesting to think, well, who puts me in their inner circle, and I hope I live up to, that being that loving person in their lives. Yeah. So that's cool. Very cool. Yeah.
I can go next.
Sure.
I'm down in my man cave in my recliner with a quilt on me, and I let my loudmouth cat out. So hopefully that wasn't disturbed. And I dug in the drawer, and guess what I found? That's the only stationery I found.
There you go.
With the U of M on it.
Oh no.
But in the inner circle, I've got like 4 male friends, all happen to live yet in Grand Rapids, dear friends, my wife, my kids and grandkids, our band leader at our church here in Dexter, and of course, God's in the center. But those male friends, it's so much fun for me to spend time with them now that we moved away from Grand Rapids. See them less, but when we do, it's overnight or more intense of time and depth. So
yeah, Tom and I, we and I have talked about that sense of spiritual friendships that God actually. Edward Ravoux, one of a monk from the 4th century, he talks about that in our lives, in addition to our children and our spouses and loved ones, God also sometimes puts these special friends, kind of like Jonathan and David. I think Jesus and John had that relationship where the relationship is so close. It's focused on that love relationship. It points you kind of intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. The friendship points the 2 friends toward God. And God almost becomes the third person, like in a marriage, basically. So that spiritual friendship is something that I think, as we name it, it's like, wow, those 4 buddies of yours, Tom, are I would say are your spiritual friends. Yeah.
Absolutely, and some of them are lifelong. I mean, I've known them for a long time, so
that's cool.
It's a blessing. I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah. Somebody else?
I'll go. My husband Pat, my son Chris, his significant other Elise, and my sister, and then I've got a couple very, very close friends, maybe 3 really close ones. God, of course, and then I have to include all my little angels. My son, our son Patrick, who passed 20 years ago. So all my heavenly people, my mom and dad, and really miss them all very much, and have conversations with them as if, try to.
Yeah, good for
I
you.
don't hear them back, but I talk to them anyway.
That's
Maybe I do.
yeah. And I think there is that, since I had a Polish Aunt Stella, and she always said that when someone passes, like my dad died when I was 16, she had this theory, this Polish theory, that God allows them to come back in some sign or symbol, kind of like that movie, like Ghost with Patrick. There's the coin. So I talk to my dad just like you too, like that. And not that I hear an audible voice, but I have a sense of a presence and, this quiet whisper him. And many times it's a coin. I'll find a coin in an unusual place and I go, oh, that's you, Dad. You're telling me I'm on the right track. So I applaud you for that communion of saints, we might call it, or just that spiritual connection that never dies.
No, never dies.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Jack, what are your thoughts?
So in my circle, I put my brother, my two parents, put three or four really close friends of mine. I haven't talked to two of them in a while, just because I graduated, and they're still in school, so it's been a bit tricky, just like keeping in touch with everyone. But they have been just huge, with like helping me through like all the stuff that all the garbage that would happen, and they were always there. And there's also God, who's in the center as well.
Sounds like great friendships. That's even when you don't see them or talk to them a while. It's probably when you talk to them, it's just like you pick up from like you've seen each other just yesterday, I bet.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is cool. Yeah, what a gift. That's for sure. Yeah, awesome. Mary Kay, what about you? Who's in your inner circle?
When I'm almost I think I'm the last one. It's like I can add, okay, just about everything everybody else said in terms of, family. And yes, my mom and dad who passed, and I have several circle of friends outside of, like I said, my family. I have siblings and my husband, 3 sons, 2 grandsons, and 3 granddogs. But I have friends that are back from grade school and high school, and my neighborhood friends. And I have a group of women that we just had a talk on through Messenger like this tonight, because we have a group that supports each other. We formed, I think about 4 years ago. We all had kids at the grade school, and one of the sons, they were all boys, and one of them committed suicide. And so we got together to make sure we went out to dinner once a month so that this girl could grieve, do whatever she needed to do, but she had our support. And we recently had a guy, one of the gals then, her husband was diagnosed with cancer in July. And, I told the gal that we first got together for, I says, if we wouldn't have been together 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to pull together a benefit for this guy that was sick. And his widow had a bad day today, and 5 of us got on the messenger talk and just chatted for 20 minutes. She, had a bad day. One of the things she had to do was unload a trailer, and just being able to share that was awesome. And it's a really, really cool group that you speak your mind and you're always safe.
Yeah. And the reality, what comes to mind, Mary Kay, is she shared that's the presence of God.
Oh, definitely.
Even in this midst of this crisis that we're going through, or hardships, it's like we kind of go, oh God, why don't you just wave a magic wand and fix it? And that's not God. God says, I'll walk you through it. I'll surround you with the people, to walk you through it. There's the presence of God. And I think that's so rich as you share that. I mean, we all have those inner circles like that, and there is the presence of God. And you can get mad and angry. You know, I got in a fight with my wife earlier yesterday, but we're back loving each other. And can we start all over again? And it's that unconditional love in that inner circle that is so important. Yeah. And on mine too, I had the same thing. I added Riley because I forgot him. I also had my spiritual director, Father Don, in there. Certainly all 4 of my children, my wife, my best friend. He's a spiritual friend. As my kids grew older, I really looked for a spiritual friend. And about 8 years ago, Ralph just kind of wandered into my life. And then I also, Chad Allen, Tess knows Chad. As I was putting this together, I thought, yeah, Chad's in that circle. He's kind of a surprising person that I never thought. He's a writing coach and really just an amazing person to help writers grow in their craft. And I just was not expecting to move forward with any kind of deeper writing. And a spiritual direction client of mine just, you got to talk to this Chad guy. This is about a year ago. And I resisted it. It's like, no, it's, time's not right. And ultimately I just got that God nudge, and I called Chad a year ago, and he put together this group of 10 of us, one of which was Tess, and went through the 6-month, a book proposal academy. And it literally changed my life. And so many times the people God puts in our lives, there's a surprise element of like, wow, I never thought this person would come into my life. And you go, okay, I guess he or she is supposed to be in that. So I love it when God surprises, like with Chad in my life. It's like, wow, I didn't really expect that, so yeah, that's great. And so just, again, it's so nice to step back and just honor that, wow, those are the people in my inner circle. The second would be, I just call them wisdom teachers. When we're in, we go through grade school and high school, we have teachers that teach us math and religion and, different subjects. But we wouldn't go back to our first grade math teacher to teach us engineering. Basically, we're always, if we want to continue to grow intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, we're always looking for, who's my teacher? In the 3-year program 20 years ago at Dominican Center, where we were trained to be spiritual directors, Sister Nancy said, I want each one of you to just identify somebody that you want to walk alongside of you. They could be someone alive or dead, but just somebody that kind of is a role model. It's like, wow, I really want to learn a little bit more about that person. I want to read some of their writings. I want to learn how they lived, because they almost become like a hero for us. And as we read about them, as we look at their lives, by osmosis, we begin to integrate the good parts of their lives. So back then it was Thomas Merton. I loved reading about Merton, and really introduced me to the contemplative. Right now, for me, it's as I continue to do deeper writing and kind of being that vulnerable writing. Henry Nouwen, I just love how Henry was so willing to be who he was in his writings, but also had a universal truth. So those are the kinds of, when I talk about wisdom teachers, those are the people would be just, who is it that you look at? Maybe somebody you're reading, maybe a saint, maybe a hero, maybe, it could be someone that's alive too, but somebody that you say, yeah, they really inspire me. Maybe God has placed this person in my life as a teacher. Does that make any sense? Yeah. And it can change over life, way back when it was Thomas Merton for me. And it could be actually somebody that you take coursework from. So, I went, Richard Rohr has been a great person that has been one of my teachers. And I actually went to the Living School for 3 years, because it's like, I wanted him to be my teacher, along with Jim Finley and Cynthia Burgo. It's like, I wanted a teacher. So I actually was so nudged by God. It's like, well, I'm going to take some classes, from them, be part of their community for a while. But now I finished that and I move on to new teachers. So anybody have a wisdom teacher that you say, yeah, this person I would put, somewhere in that circle, or on the outside, but still in that circle?
Brian, since you mentioned Henry Nouwen, actually I have one of his books sitting on my desk because I in my memoir writing, I had referred back to a passage in the book, but so Henry Nouwen is for sure one for me. I've read this book. I have it really marked. It's called Return of the Prodigal Son, A Story of Homecoming by Nouwen. And it's just a marvelous book. And gosh, I've had this for years, and I guess it was a parish priest of mine who recommended it. And I just find myself going back to it numerous times. And another person for me is another priest who, back in 2002, I had gone through a 3-year lay ministry program through my Catholic diocese here in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area. And he did a retreat mass for us. And at the end of it, he just looked at our group, and we had, like I said, we're all just coming to the close of this 3-year program. And, this was a line he shared with us like 17 and a half years ago. And he looked at all of us and he just said, your lives are not your own anymore. Meaning, okay, wow, we're giving them in service. And it was so powerful to me then. It's still powerful to me. And so I would definitely put him there on my list as well. And Brian, I hope you don't mind my saying this. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I've really been, just in the time that I've come to know you, starting last April or May when we started Chad's class, and your whole concept of finding flow, I've really been touched by that. And so like I said, I don't want to embarrass you, but you've become one of my wisdom teachers. That's why I'm here tonight, because I find lots of inspiration, and just the whole concept of finding flow is just, I think it's just powerful. I think it's just a wonderful resource that you're creating for a spiritual life.
Well, thank you, Tess. Yeah. And likewise, you've been my teacher in so many ways in our groups too. So thank you. Yeah.
So I identified C.S. Lewis, his books I really like, and Ron Rolheiser. He's amazing. His books, but also he has this newsletter and so on. He just has a different perspective on what's happening, and even on passages from the Bible, I read them in a different way now because of him.
Wow. Two amazing people. Yeah, that is, wow, how cool. I love C.S. Lewis, Screw Tape Letters. I read that a while ago. I had a buddy of mine, Ralph, and Tom, you know Ralph. He was reading it, he goes, oh, that's how that screw tape gets me screwed up in my life. And I love how Lewis can do that. So yeah, thank you, Celeste, for both of them. They're just amazing. And you're right, they are spiritual teachers. They're wisdom teachers. They are human like us, but again, they join our community of humanity and have insights and wisdom that God puts into them that spills out onto the page or newsletters. And yeah, that's great. Wow. So cool.
I can go.
Sure.
Almost all of them are dead. I named 3 people that weren't family members. One, our high school Sunday school teacher, was divorced, and showed us through his life. And he had time to spend with us kids, so he took us wilderness canoeing and skiing and all sorts of crazy things. But what an example. A professor I had at U of M Dearborn, I was the only one who spoke at his funeral. I mean, I still hang out with his kids and his widow because I just loved him so much. One pastor that became kind of a contemporary, and I went through the Bethel Bible series as one of his disciples for about 4 years, and then teaching also, and just a lot of pastors. Also, my mom, my maternal grandmother, Jesus.
Definitely, yeah. Rabbi, yeah, exactly.
Obvious. And one that might be a little bit of a wild card is Kobe Bryant. I'm a big brother to a 14-year-old Muslim who wants to be in the NBA. And Kobe inspired a book of kind of fantasy. It's young adult fiction called the Wisnard series before he died. And I read the first one. I tried to get it from my little brother who refused to read it. I read all 600 pages.
Wow.
And it really gave me a lot of depth of Kobe. He wasn't just an airhead basketball player. He had some really good proverbs in there that were life wisdom. And I think very moral. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Now he's got a heavenly job to come down as an angel, huh?
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Wow, those are cool. So cool. Anybody else? And it may be that you don't have one, and that's okay. I've had points in my life where it's like I kind of go, oh, like when I finished the Roar Living School last fall, I was like, oh, I really don't have a teacher anymore in my life, and it was kind of that, oh, what's going on? It's like, well, because God is nudging me with a little bit of that discontent to say, well, maybe I need to look for someone. And so then, now and there's another guy, this Chris Wallace, that I've been taking a free online course through. So yeah, if there isn't someone, that's fine. But maybe it's that nudge of, oh, I'd really like to focus on this one or two people to learn from and stuff. So yeah.
I think for me, one of my wisdom teachers would actually be you, my dad. Especially with the Finding Flow, the Finding Flow webinars, and my dad has encouraged me to do spiritual direction and those types of things, and just the weekly readings, his blogs that he puts out. So I think for me right now, kind of taking a look at it is, would be my dad. He's in my inner circle, but also a really big wisdom teacher for me right now.
Wow.
Yeah, those are really.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with her. I really look forward to your weekly little
Reflections.
The simple wisdoms.
meditations.
Yeah.
With little, yes, so the wisdoms that they're very, very meaningful.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Two of mine have been, well, one, you, Brian. My father introduced me to your weekly wisdoms, and I started reading them. I was like, I needed this. I needed this so much. So that's been a huge help for me spiritually, and also last year I went to the Sinsinawa Mound, where for the it was a school trip from at Dominican University that we all went up. They had a bookstore, and so I was looking through, and I found one also by Richard Rohr. Like the title always trips me up because it's like so long. It was The Ways of the Mystic, 7 Pathways to the Deeper Self. So recently, those have been the two biggest spiritual sources of wisdom that I've been getting.
Awesome. Yeah. And Jack, just so you know, it shows that God can even use lawyers to inspire people. Use fishermen, tax collectors, lawyers. It's like, oh boy.
Use everyone.
Exactly. Anybody else? Where we move on? Oh.
Hello.
Yeah. So the next, we've kind of already talked about it, but where would you put God in your circle? Or there may be more than one place, but where does God fit in? Just kind of real quickly, you've already kind of said that. Where does God fit in there? I put mine just real quick. I put him in my inner circle, but then also all around it, thinking, God holds the whole universe, and I put arrows around that. So God is in the sense, for me, it was God's in me, and God's all around me and all of us, basically. So that was my 2 spots.
I had the same too, in my inner circle and outside of my inner circle as well.
Neat.
Ditto.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I've got him in my inner circle, both as a source of wisdom and as, you like someone who's, just always there. Someone I can depend on.
That's neat. Yeah. And that's interesting in the inner circle. It's interesting. I think, at least for me and for many of the directees I work with, there's that movement from God's out there, like God's someplace up in heaven, and he's an intellectual being, which is a good foundation. But as we mature, there's that sense of, wow, God is in here. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the divine. It's like, and when that movement happens, I know for me, whenever that happened, when God all of a sudden became, wow, I'm like pregnant with God, even though I'm a man. It's like, wow, like there really is a Holy Spirit within me. And I think there's a shift in the relationship when God goes into that inner circle, that one-on-one relationship. So yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Brian, one thought I had, which I think goes along probably even the same thing as what you and your daughter, and I'm sorry, I forget your first name, but your daughter said, Mary Beth?
Mary Claire.
Mary Claire. Hi,
Yeah.
so sorry, Mary Claire. But about God being in the center of the circle and outside the center, the thought that occurred to me was just that is to maybe say God is the circle.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it that way.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. Yeah. Does that speak to you, Kim?
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, God is the circle. That's cool. And it's the both and. Yeah, how cool that is. That, we could never put God in a box. It's that and everything else. Yeah, that is so cool. Is there anybody who needs to be outside of your circle? Are there any toxic people? And if you don't want to share that, that's okay too. But I think part of the thing, that was a big deal for me as I grew. And continue to I'm not saying but to say, wow, it's okay to say there's some people I'm going to love them the best I can, but I'm not going to share my deepest, darkest secrets because I've been hurt by that person, and we just haven't been able to patch up the relationship. So maybe one of my directors years ago said, maybe it's time to create space for the Holy Spirit in the relationship, and that gave me permission to say, I don't have to fix everything. I do need to love everybody the best I can. But in terms of that inner circle, it's okay to do as they've done in the Faulkners. You're not in my inner circle anymore, So for me, I was thinking about that. Right now, it's the media. I need to move the media out of my inner circle. I can get addicted to, particularly as a business owner and a father and a husband and watching my kids go through stuff. It's like I can just get addicted to that, and I try to get a balanced view of both sides of the thing. But the other day I went to shave and I was listening. I threw the news on real quick near the bathroom, and it was starting to bother me. I said, you know what? They're out of my inner circle, and I'll just once or twice a day I'll check in. But I'm going to put on some praise music instead of listening to the media. And boy, did that shift my mood. So for me, the media I put on the outside of that. I'm moving them out a little bit. Anybody else have a toxic person or thing that needs to get moved outside?
Well, I agree with you on the media right now. My husband said, and I didn't even realize, he said, it might do you some good to just stay away from, the TV for the news right now, because you're awfully anxious. And I didn't realize my anxiety level was so high. But the last, I think it was day before yesterday. Maybe you need to just turn that off for a while. As he's very anxious right now too, but
sure,
both be anxious at the same time.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
We're all anxious in some way or another.
Yeah, we are.
For sure. Yeah.
Philippians 4:6-7 helps, to put it to prayer and let God, but that's not, it's easy to say, but it's hard to give it up totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, one I'd say is my sister. She's made it easy to distance because she won't talk to me.
Oh,
And I don't feel guilty at all. So I think it's Romans in 12:18, I could be wrong, that says it's up to us to live as peaceably as we can with others. And I think that implies a two-way street. And some people just don't want to live peacefully with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one. It was hard at first, but I've come to grips with it. And anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
It's hard to make that decision to acknowledge people as toxic and kind of remove them. There's a lot of guilt associated with it, and it took me a long time to come to the realization that sometimes, as hard as it is, as guilty as I feel about it, I had one mostly, maybe two people, but that, you know, just I came to the realization that, you know what, I just can't have them too close. But it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I admire you for being able to do that. That's a hard thing to do. My son had to do that with a relationship, and I know what he went through to make that decision, and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are really strong that can say, you know what, I just can't have you in my life anymore. Love you, but you know, gotta move on. Yeah, you're not healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
I have a friend who's probably the only Catholic friend I have, but in every conversation, she's talking about how misogynistic the church is, the Pope, the bishop. She's got a real hate on for all of that. And so what I've been doing is telling her, you know, let's bracket that. Let's talk about something else. But that is her main topic of conversation. And she goes on and on and on. And I just tell her, no, let's talk about how wonderful Father Kevin is. And I try to steer it. But after a while, I just, I don't want to, if I'm in the middle of a walk with her, I want to cut the walk short. And so, but she's one of the few people that, you know, maybe one of the only ones who is actually a practicing Catholic. And so I try to establish those boundaries, and she's frustrated with me because I won't really listen to her say the same things over and over again. And I tell her, there are parishes that are working really well. They're all around us. And the bishop isn't imposing his own views on our kingdom, his kingdom. I can't argue with her. I can't tell her I see things from a different perspective, or maybe she can too, or something like that. I just let her go and tell her, you know, time out. I literally tell her time out. But when someone else is talking, it's just an interval for when she can talk, if you know what I mean.
Oh boy.
And she holds the floor by talking for a long time and then saying and then repeats herself. So I know she needs my support. In some ways, maybe I need hers. So I don't want to distance her that much, but I think what was either Kimberly or Tess said, sometimes it's necessary to limit your interactions with certain people.
Yeah.
If interaction, you just feel angry.
And that's where, you know, I find is that solitude piece, you know, again, the four quadrants of, you know, that quiet time with God. I find that many times it's just letting God comfort us, you know, when we're sitting there, quiet time, meditation. But sometimes it's problem solving. It's like, God, what do I do with this person? You know, I mean, you know, and that becomes like, wow, I can actually take this to God. And not that God speaks to us, but when we're really quiet, like we all heard in the Lectio Divina today, we all heard something that inspired us. And my sense is that's God speaks in ordinary language, simple words and phrases. So yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of having that other quadrant of solitude, the meditation, that I can take this relationship. God, are you inviting me to just walk alongside and be a deaf ear, or like you're doing, do I need to kind of set some boundaries about, we're not going to talk about that, change the channel and, type thing. So yeah, that's good. And to bring that to God, because God wants to, as you're doing already, just sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just being aware of, that circle that, yeah, that is okay. And I think, Kim, you're right. It's hard, for people that want to be, I see sometimes and this is probably too big of a over generalization, but I sometimes think there's givers and there's takers in the world. And it's hard for the givers to push out those people that don't have a reciprocal giving and taking. And not that they have to all be, but boy, sometimes when you're the giver, you think I should be able to fix this, and I should be able to cure this. Like, no, I need to stand up and push against this in some way. So yeah. Last question, is there anybody that's missing from your circle? Anything, or a person, place, thing? Is there anyone that's missing from your circle? Like you'd say, boy, I really would like. So I'll just give an example. What I'm talking about would be, I've got 4 wonderful children, 3 boys and Mary Claire. And as they grew older, Mary Claire is now 26 and the boys are in their 30s. I knew that my best friends, they were my best friends, and they were going to be, we'd still have a great relationship as we do, but they're going to move on to college and their own lives. And I didn't really have anybody, and my wife, certainly, we were spiritual friends and everything, and still, obviously are, but there wasn't another guy in my life that was willing to talk about, life and faith. And so I really didn't realize it, but I was really looking for a spiritual friend. And so I really prayed for years, God, bring a spiritual friend. And I joined men's groups and go to coffee with buddies. It's like, no, they want to talk about is something stupid. So I was like, yeah, but ultimately, kind of through a whole chain of events, I met a buddy, Ralph, 8 years ago at a conference, and he's become my best friend. So, I recognizing that there was something missing, and then praying, it really was God nudging, saying, yeah, I'd like that for you too, Brian. Ultimately, the steel beams aligned like Magoo, basically. So is there anybody in your life or anything that you say, I'm really missing this piece, and would like, to me, that's a God nudge. If it feels like it's missing, we honor that. Okay, God, you placed this on my heart. So how do you help me fulfill that need in my life? So does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what I'm missing is what I had with you, Brian, and Ralph and the others, and then prior to that with 3 people from my work that in both cases just became deep spiritual brothers that we could meet as a small group and share our innermost thoughts and surely our faith. I'm missing that. I've got individual friends, but a lot of them are in Grand Rapids. We've got a wonderful church here, and they've been very good to me, and I'm developing some really deep friendships with them. But that group where you could just retreat and be totally transparent and revealing of your innermost fears, thoughts, etc. I miss that.
So that small group of guys is what you're saying? Yeah.
Didn't just talk about sports.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you might want to put that on your circle. Okay. I actually wrote a piece that's missing. I put it on my outside of my circle. Well, this is what's missing. And so by looking at that, you're like, oh, okay. Then you kind of open your ears. Well, I'm missing that. God, where are the opportunities, in your church to start a men's group, or are there other, just looking at, and I think part of that requires taking a risk, to like, oh, these people, hey, you want to join a men's group that I'm going to start up? It's like, okay, no, then you become vulnerable. But it's like, doesn't God call us to be fools for Christ? So I feel the more foolish I am, maybe I get a better room up in heaven or something. Teasing, but yeah, but yeah, to recognize that that's probably a desire God has placed on your heart, and to honor that. And okay, God, I really, can you show me the way with that? Yeah, that's good. Anybody else?
I can jump in with something as far as someone who's missing. And I have to draw this distinction. God is not missing. My faith is not missing. I feel that it's strong. What I am missing right now is a stronger connection to my religion. And that is because here in central Pennsylvania, my Catholic diocese was heavily affected by the church abuse, the priest abuse scandal. And we had quite a number of priests and, involved in that. And it really affected, as it has around the world and in our country, affected a lot of people. And I think there are, as one of our priests, wonderful priests, said in church, that there are still people having to keep what he called a spiritual distance from certain church-related things, and I've not been able to close that spiritual distance as much as I would like to. So I pray on it, and I think it will happen. But right now, it's not there. It hasn't been severed, but the healing process has been longer than I would have liked. So yeah.
And just to name that, good for you. That just naming it as you are is, then you can put it out there. God, help this, however it is unfold. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I put, and I don't mean to embarrass Mary Claire, but I put what's missing right now is my daughter, Mary Claire.
Oh.
Not that we don't have a great relationship, but I just, she's gone through some stuff in California health-wise and everything, and she's missing. I want to be able to hug her and drop the groceries off at her house, and so she's missing in my life. So, and it's out of love.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Anybody else? Yeah, so just ponder that, and from time to time, if you feel that there's something missing, just name it. I mean, that's that sense of wholeness. I think many times there, God puts those desires in our hearts, and rather than running from them, I used to run from those desires. Now it's like, oh, okay, they're a desire, and so I put them out there and I name them like you did, Tess, and allow God to continue to just move me with that. So yeah.
I think for me, something that was missing but is kind of coming into the light for me was the spiritual direction. I've only had a couple sessions with it, but I think for me it's one of those things where when I had those sessions, I was like, wow, I feel really good. And I think it was one of those things that was missing because it's almost it's something new, something you're not used to, and maybe something that you're like, oh, is this what I need? I'm not sure. I'm feeling these nudges. It's scary. It's kind of new. I'm diving into myself a little bit, but so I think that's kind of one of those that's missing, but yet coming into light at the same time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those, spiritual direction is an ancient tradition in all faith traditions. We kind of lost it with the Enlightenment. It just became the clergy did, they experienced it or they did it. But, since the 60s, there has been this resurgence of training lay people and clergy to really sit with people for an hour a month. And really, it's that sense of, there's always, in my mind, when I do spiritual direction, there's three chairs in the room. There's the mentor, spiritual mentor, the person that's trained in the gift of discernment and listening. Then there's the person that's coming for spiritual direction, and then God, because really the spiritual director is God. and it's an amazing relationship. As Mary Claire says, about 25 years ago, once again, I kind of stumbled into it from our religious education director. And when I was going through a really, like, I came home from a retreat 25 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, honey, we're selling the house. We're going to give it all to Jesus. Da-da-da. She just looked at me like, okay, this is weird. She goes, you need to talk to Joanne, our director of religious ed. And so I went to Joanne, and she says, yeah, here's a Dominican Center in Grand Rapids. Most spiritual life centers have directors. And so I said, well, where do you find a spiritual director? You look in the yellow pages. She says, no, usually good spiritual life centers have. And she pointed me to Dominican Center. And it's just amazing to sit and really integrate your life, sitting with an hour where someone is just listening and helping you. The answers are within us. And it's really, you with that person doing active listening, helping you discern, oh, here's where God's moving in life. So just amazing new tradition. Well, it's an old tradition that's really being revitalized. And there's a whole, Spiritual Directors International has a whole website of people in different locations that you can plug into. So if that's something anybody's interested in, that's another opportunity to look at. So yeah. So anything else before we sign off, or should we close in a prayer? Any questions or anything? Thank you so much for, wow, this has been fun. I didn't even use my notes here. I thought, you know what, let's just talk, which is fun. So yeah, this has been a great conversation and clearly an example of community. I mean, on one hand, yeah, we're in the middle of this, pandemic, but on the other hand, look at the technology that God has given people that designed all of this, that we can sit and be, in Saskatchewan and LA and California and San Jose and Ann Arbor and Pennsylvania. I mean, just amazing. In Illinois, I mean, that's community. So I always believe, yeah, there's a shadow of things in life, but if you look for the light, where is Christ in the midst of that? I think this is an example of that. So
We are blessed.
We are blessed, exactly. Yeah, and we're safe. That's the important thing. I think that's been the biggest thing. I just keep. I'm safe. My Maslow hierarchy. I have food, water, people that love me. The utilities are on. I have my health, and so I'm safe.
But Brian, do you have toilet paper?
A little bit. We're rationing it. But my wife reminded me when the kids were babies, we used to take washcloths and wipe their butts, and then we would throw them in the dish. And then, so I said, if we run out, we can always do that. But yeah, good question, Kim. Yeah, we do for now, but who knows?
Thank you so much, Brian, for doing this. Great job. And
yeah. Well, let's close with a prayer. Does everybody want to lead us? Or Tom, you're a good prayer. You want to lead us?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Totally unprepared. Here we go. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the community here. Let us take forth the messages that Brian has led us and God has led us to learn tonight into our communities and look at not just our local community, but our nation and our world. Please unite us all with the common humanity and the common creation that our dear Lord has given us. Through Christ's sake, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll do it April 1 if anybody's on contemplative action. It's our spiritual gifts and how we're being invited to use those. And it'll be toward the end of April. I'll put that on the weekly spiritual or simple wisdom things. I'll have a little link on there when I get that set up. But if you're interested in joining, great. If not, that's okay too. Or if you know someone that wants to join, just kind of a fun thing to just sit and enjoy. I'll also email, this is recorded, so I'll email the link to you along with the notes too that kind of went along with it. So yeah.
Great. Thank you,
Well,
Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Be safe, everybody, and God bless you. And till we meet again.
Great. Thank
God
you.
bless all
Well,
of you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now.